Oh man, so one of the big questions that I'm always getting when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks is, who do they send to Seattle? Who do they not protect, and who eventually gets chosen? And, my default answer was always the same, spanning back to about a year ago when we had these Markstrom, Demko, future goalie, and all the conversations about that. It would have been a goalie. That was always the answer that I kind of had in my head, and once the Vancouver Canucks let Markstrom go to the Flames and they signed Braden Holtby on instead, that idea was reaffirmed even more in my head because I was like, okay, Holtby is a Stanley Cup champion, he is this, he is that, he's supposed to be pretty good, supposed to be a very suitable 1A, if not a 1B with Thatcher Demko. So, by virtue of who exactly is good on the team, it would make the most sense if Braden Holtby, of all people, gets sent over to Seattle in the expansion draft. Well, we have some rumors coming about suggesting the idea that Braden Holtby might not go to Seattle, but hey, maybe another city entirely. Let's go over what was mentioned on Check TV Donnie and Dolly by Rick Dollywall. It was mentioned over the weekend that there was a rumor the Boston Bruins might be interested in Braden Holtby. Okay, Braden Holtby having interest from the Boston Bruins? That's something that might actually be a thing here, as suggested on Check TV? Well, it's not even just the guys over on Donnie and Dolly that were talking about this. Take a look at this post here on our Canucks. I think it's a really good one. I want to read this out here for you. Holtby to Boston, as posted by Diploic. It was mentioned earlier this morning on Halford and Bruff on Sportsnet 650 that Braden Holtby has been linked to Boston. Has anyone else heard rumblings of this? What trades or scenarios make sense, as we would need a goalie to expose to Seattle still? Here's a reply that I really wanted to read out from Timothy Robin. Okay. They listened to the segment on Halford and Bruff where they mentioned Braden Holtby. It was a phone interview with Kevin Woodley on a bunch of different subjects. He was asked what did the Canucks do about Braden Holtby this offseason, and Woodley said a lot of people might hope Seattle, and maybe there's a fit there if the Kraken really don't like any of the other Canucks players, but it's unlikely they would want to pick up his cap hit or his $5.7 million in remaining salary owed. Woodley, the guest on 650, also mentioned that he thought it was interesting that Fluto Shinzawa, the guy who writes Boston Bruins articles on The Athletic, had an article about what Boston does with their goaltending because Tuukka Rask needs hip surgery. Halak isn't coming back, and Swayman is a rookie. One of the few goalies Shinzawa listed on his short list was Braden Holtby. The only thing that made this article stand out to Woodley was that he heard from someone in the Canucks camp that the team gave Holtby a chance to play games down the stretch to prove that he still has it in him. So, quote, maybe a team like Boston, end quote, would give Holtby a shot. And just to go out there and end things off the way that he wants to, he does say, do I have concrete information? Absolutely not. Please do not put this out there, as Kevin Woodley reports, because I'm sure as heck not doing that. He continues to say that if we're just connecting dots, it is interesting that the team he had heard mentioned from a Canucks source in passing was Boston, and a report out of Boston is also suggesting that a fit might be Braden Holtby. So this is purely just speculation at the most part here. It's Woodley hearing from the Canucks source, hey, maybe a team like Boston likes what they see in Holtby and they give him a shot. And then he reads an article from the Boston side of things later saying, okay, maybe Holtby's a good option here. And that's kind of the link that I wanted to bring up. So Braden Holtby and the Boston Bruins, would there be interest here? And man, what in the world could the Vancouver Canucks pull for him? Braden Holtby this year, I'll just say it right off the bat, he was bad. Like, my gosh, there were 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 weeks where Braden Holtby actually did extraordinarily well for the Vancouver Canucks this season. But if you take a look at the numbers, what he was able to do for the hockey club, man, wasn't that great. 3.67 goals against average and an .889 save percentage in 21 games played, and he lost 14 games. Now, Thatcher Demko, statistically, is a lot better. 9.15 save percentage right there, a 2.85 goals against compared to Braden Holtby's 3.67. Both of these numbers, honestly, pretty kind of bad in terms of the goals against average. Thatcher Demko's 9.15, I believe, was above average, though. Holtby's 8.89, though? Yeah, not great. Braden Holtby definitely was not the same Stanley Cup caliber goaltender that he was with the Capitals back in 2018, 2019, and that kind of range as he was with the Vancouver Canucks in 2020, 2021. But he's 31 years old and he's got 1 more year remaining. Granted, he will get paid $5.7 million, but the cap hit is indeed 4.3. And so you enter the Boston Bruins, a team that is quite uncertain with how they're going to go goaltending-wise in the next few months. And the idea is brought up that, hey, maybe Braden Holtby is a guy that they give a little bit of an opportunity to. The Vancouver source that Woodley reported was kind of indicating that maybe a team like Boston would give Holtby a shot because of the body of work Holtby would do upon the team's return from the big virus scare that they had. And guess what? Holtby was honestly really good when the team returned. Against Toronto after that huge month-long break. A .949 save percentage, a win in overtime, fantastic. The next game against Toronto, a .925 save percentage, 40 shots against, and 37 saves, a 6-3 win for Vancouver. And then you have the next game against Ottawa, 2 games actually, .929 save percentage and .926 save percentage. A really good stretch for Braden Holtby. I remember this was the stretch where we were kind of like, oh man, he's good. Like, this is classic Braden Holtby coming back to play. He is with the Vancouver Canucks and he's here to stay, baby. And then he put up an 8.33, an 8.71, an 8.33, and a 7.86 at the end of the season. And that's all she wrote for Braden Holtby's 2020-2021. It was one really good stint of about 4 games-ish towards the end of the year that really made, I guess, that resume-building piece appropriate, I would say. And so if you're Boston and you have this thing, okay, Rask is getting surgery, Swayman's a rookie, and Halak is not coming back, what in the world are we gonna do? Is it worth it to try to trade for 1 year of Braden Holtby? A guy who, at the very least, is an NHL caliber guy for the most part? And what exactly is the price that you give up to get this guy? The Boston Bruins, I don't want to make it seem like they are the best prospect pool in the league or that they have so many good young guys that the Vancouver Canucks could absolutely want, because the ones that they do have, I mean, maybe Jake DeBrusk could be a target for Benning or whatever, but you're not going to get Jake DeBrusk for Braden Holtby. Like, come on, that's not going to work like that. Trent Frederick? Nah, they just signed that guy. They're not going to get him either. When it comes to the younger guys and the prospects, the Bruins are missing their second-round pick this year, but they have their first, their third, their fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, so maybe one of those assets goes to Vancouver for a Holtby. What exactly is a Holtby worth? At the end of the day, what Holtby is to a team like Boston would just pretty much be a roster body to fill up that space. Not necessarily a guy that they're acquiring because they think he can win them games, but because they just need a body there. What's stopping them from going out free agency and making an acquisition that way? Boston is just the team that is linked here because a few other sources in passing were kind of mentioning Holtby as a potential fit there. When it comes to Boston and their prospect pool, hey, they have some guys that I think are cool. I like Urho Vakanainen, but I really don't think that's the guy that's going to be sent over there. Daniel Vladar as well is there, not to mention Jeremy Swayman, who is really good, oddly enough, this previous season. But aside from that, I mean, Jakub Loko, Studnicka, Senyshyn, I don't know, man. There isn't really anything here that I think the Vancouver Canucks would be banging on the table to get for a Braden Holtby that would actually make sense. So when it comes to a trade here, I think you have to really get creative as to who exactly it is you're acquiring and what kind of asset that player could bring. Or maybe the Vancouver Canucks just say, screw it, okay, we'll keep Braden Holtby, we'll expose him to Seattle, and then if he sticks around, he doesn't get taken, they take like a Tyler Myers or whatever, and we still have Holtby, maybe then we'll trade Holtby and keep Demko and DiPietro as the 1-2 punch. Maybe. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen. Not really in the realm of possibility in general, I think. But when it comes to Boston, hey, if you're a Bruins fan, let me know in the comments. What do you think about Braden Holtby? I said my piece over here. I really don't think he's all that good. So I think with a team that has a much higher standard for winning, I think, nowadays in the Boston Bruins compared to the Vancouver Canucks, I don't know if you guys would really like Braden Holtby unless he goes back to Stanley Cup Finals, Stanley Cup Playoff, like .925 save percentage Braden Holtby in the playoffs with the Capitals all those years ago kind of Braden Holtby, which I don't really know if it's all too possible anymore. So if you are getting a Holtby the way he is right now, what is the max that you'd be willing to give up? Is it a third round pick? Is it a fourth? Is it a third and a prospect? I highly doubt it's going to be much, but you can let me know in the comments what you think. Also, if you're a Canucks fan, hey, would you be interested in trading Braden Holtby and needing to protect a different goaltender in the expansion draft instead? Because I think that is still a commitment the Canucks have to do. But anyways, I don't really know if it's actually going to happen, but despite that, we had these rumors pop up, which I thought were really interesting, so that's why we talked about them here. Talk to me in the comments as well what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.